Welcome to Making MarTech, where we spotlight innovative MarTech companies and leaders who are driving growth, highlighting valuable insights and actionable strategies to stay ahead in this industry. Today, we're here with Ankur Goyal, CEO of Fibr AI. Hi, Ankur. How are you doing?
Hey, Himnish, all well. How about you?
Not too bad here. So first off, can you just introduce yourself? Who are you? What do you do?
So I'm Ankur. I'm the founder of Fibr AI. At Fibr AI, we are reimagining how websites run. So in a very simple term, in marketing, there's something called conversion rate optimization. We're creating an AI CRO, AI conversion rate optimization, which basically optimizes your website, improves conversion, run personalization, and do auto experimentation continuously.
Okay, gotcha. So now how does Fibr AI do this?
Again, like to understand how Fibr AI do it, we need to understand how conversion rate optimization happens right now, right? So very, very simple. The workflow for any CRO is you figure out from your data what the customer who is landing on a website is doing, right? See where they're clicking. They might be revenge clicking on certain images, certain buttons. So just keep track of all of those things and figure out, hey, if this is what they're doing, this is what they're dropping, can I make changes so that this particular friction goes away? So that's one part of CRO. The other part of CRO is if I am showing a messaging on internet, on Google ads, on Facebook ads, that hey, do you want to buy X because of this? When they come to the website, if that messaging is missing, then they lose interest. So how do we make sure whatever marketing I'm doing is aligned on my website as well, which is personalization. So there's these all small steps in content optimization, and then you have to figure out how to run these things. So marketers have CRO agencies who do it for them. Growth marketers run few tests by themselves, but it's still at the capacity of a human. But when it comes to Fibr AI, the way we approach this is we basically create it as service as software. So the idea is you have softwares, you don't need to run them. We will run them from our AI agents. They'll sit on top, understand the data automatically, create hypothesis, and with human in loop from the marketer, from like 8 hours running this to like 8 minutes, they basically give a feedback output and we run the experiment. We conclude the experiment. We tell you, hey, whether this experiment leads to higher conversion or not. So that's what we do, and that's how Fibr AI do it. Just increase the velocity of experimentation, increase the depth of personalization automatically without needing a lot of manpower.
And what's the ROI that you guys usually see through this?
So we've been working with a few brands already, especially the ones who are getting form fill and lead generation done on their website. And we're typically seeing a pure form fill increase by around 11%. And that means somebody coming to the website and filling the form 11% higher times than earlier. And we are seeing actual buying of service eventually from that form fill increase by 25%. Now, the reason why there's these two numbers differ is because what it means is we are getting the form fill done by high quality leads who are more inclined or who are more ready to buy the solution eventually. So that's the number we are seeing. And I think like as time proceeds and as the customer becomes in our cycle for longer time, we will see a lot more increase in these numbers because our AI will run and learn a lot of data that the customer and their customers are generating for us.
Now, earlier you mentioned that there can be friction in increasing click-through rates. What does some of that friction usually look like?
Yeah. Very, very simple things like you have like a credit card page where you landed, and now you landed up from an ad which was talking about, hey, this credit card is best for grocery points. Now you landed on that page and there's nothing about grocery points. That's a friction. And like you realize it talks about all the thing that banks wants to tell you, and there is no mention of what you actually clicked on. So that's the friction. So we figure out what are those friction points. The friction point could be as simple as that people are looking for anybody else has used this credit card. Is there a testimonial where people have made points on and they are scrolling down, scrolling up, and not realizing this is missing or realizing it way down in the funnel by the time they lost interest. And so those are the kind of friction point we analyze from data that get generated when people visit your website.
And I know you kind of touched on this earlier, but how does Fibr AI go and actually refine this? Can you walk us through what the actual
Yeah.
process looks like?
Yeah. So So there are tools like GA4, right? Like Google Analytics. There are tools like Mixed Panel Analytics. These are analytics tools, but they also track movement of the user. They do path analysis. What it does it mean is when a user come in, what all sections did they scroll to? What all pages did they visit? Where did they drop out of the funnel, right? So that's the first kind of tool from which we take the data to understand where they're actually dropping off, where they're actually getting stuck, where they're actually seeing and then converting, like both the positive and the negative data. Then there are toolings like Hotjar, Clarity, which sees where are people clicking, what is the area they're spending the most time on, like much more granular data in terms of what the user is actually doing on the page. Now, taking these two data, AI then generates a hypothesis. Hey, this 100 users who converted in last 7 days, all of them spend 3 seconds or 4 seconds on this banner. So we need to understand to make sure there is a call to action below that banner and not after 4 scrolls. That's how we optimize on this. That's how AI comes with insights, it comes with hypothesis, and then we run an experiment on it.
Gotcha. So basically, you guys go and you use these third-party tools to go and analyze the actual customer behavior. Is that right?
Yeah, so we don't do it manually. Our
Right.
AI does. Right? Like so traditionally it has been done by a CRO agency, all CRO experts within a team. Now what we do is we are a layer on top of all these tools, and then we read data, make sense of the data, and tell what to do with that data.
So in a way, it's almost like hiring another employee, right? But for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah. Yeah. So right now, the good or the bad part is people don't hire CRO experts because they're insanely expensive. So they outsource the thing to an agency. So for the easiest understanding of what we do, we basically are your AI CRO agency. Right? And the other thing is an agency is still human. So they can run 10, 15, 20 tests for you. We are 24/7 on. So we can run like hundreds, thousands, and 10,000 tests for you. And so that's the difference. We are the AI CRO agency which works 24/7 for you, right? Like never stops.
And how do you think that this compares versus when you're working with an actual agency with humans here compared to this AI agent? How does the performance compare here?
What we have been seeing, the performance has been much better. Like people say 99% of the tests fail and only 1% succeed. But if you increase the volume, the 1% quantum increases. And that's where agencies can't do it and we can do it. So because of this, when we go in with the customer, we run like 300 tests in the first month, our chances of showing results are much higher. And so that's how we compare with an agency, and that's how we can do a much better job than an agency coming in and running a test for you.
And in terms of that, what are the biggest recent successes that you guys have seen with this?
Yeah. So one of our client is telecommunication. So they wanted to do two level of testing. One on their Google search ad, they have best Wi-Fi near me, best broadband near me, multiple keywords in which people search for them. And then second, every city, like best Wi-Fi near me in New York or in Boston, and every city people search for them. And so they basically want to run personalization with Google search word into the city, right? And they had 10,000 search words and they have like 22 cities. Now, when we went in, we basically multiplied and launched them in 2 hours for all those personalizations. Now, for them to do it with an agency, human, in-house, tooling, anything, it would have taken them at least like the best and the fastest and the highest efficient human being, at least 90 days. We did it in 2 hours and we went live. And the first month we saw 25% jump straight for their acquisition. Second month we saw a lot more, and then we kept on doing. And so that's the difference. Like that's how we've been able to showcase a lot. The same thing we then did with a brand based out of Delaware, which is doing scrubs, servicing scrubs. And so their whole pitch was, hey, I have 6 cities. I want to try a messaging which says, do engrave your name on the scrub for the hospital administrators. And so they wanted to like figure out quickly what it means. And so we went in, we ran 24 experiments the first month. They have typically run ever in their life 4 experiments. And now there's this AI agency coming in running 21 go. And they saw their leads quadruple 4x. right? So that's the kind of impact we are seeing.
Do you think that there's a very specific factor out of all
Mhm.
of this that really went and drove that success? I know you talked about the volume, but is there a different factor that you think also plays a good role in this?
Yeah, it's very similar, Himlish. The whole idea here is that you increase your velocity to do experimentation, right? Like if you read any big leader out there, any successful company, every single person in that company will tell you the reason we success is because we've been able to run a lot more experiments. So the volume is the actual game, but for that volume you need to support with hypothesis and insights, because AI can understand data more granular than a human can see patterns, but AI can also see patterns over time, but it can see a much more nuanced patterns. And so we can actually supplement the volume of experiments with the volume of insights and hypotheses as well, and that's where we are actually winning. It's not that we are just running so many experiments and winning. It's also because we are doing a lot of hard work in the back end, which is reading your data, understanding your data, figuring out what your audience like, what your audience doesn't like, and coming up with hypotheses on all of those things.
And from there, how exactly do you go on to refine the messaging?
Yeah. So for example, the credit card example I was giving you, you click because you were looking for grocery points, right? And so now, since I know the hypothesis that people are going down and figuring out, and then they're realizing this is the level, what we come up with is say, hey, whatever ad you are running, which talks about grocery miles, let's just send them to a page which has a headline about grocery miles, like X grocery points on purchase at Costco, for example. So we want to tie that in with the messaging. That's one. The other one we have realized is in New York, for example, who's your audience segment. After seeing the data, we realize that people are actually not converting. They're coming to the website and a lot of volume, but they are not buying. And for this brand, what we realized is there are two call to action buttons. One was to locate me, and second was to submit. And we realized because the two button colors was same, people were realizing after locate me that they have submitted the form and they were actually not submitting. And so what we did is we changed the color of the button and we saw like sudden jump in conversions, right? Very, very basic stuff. But when you go into the data, then only you realize these things.
Wow, that's something really detailed to
Yeah.
notice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, to all of successes, there's always a flip side to the coin too, right? So what are some of the biggest challenges that you guys have been facing?
Yeah. So I think we have a lot of challenges, man. Like, so we are in very early stage startup, right? Like we are still getting it. We're going and pitching to the customers. It's a lot about showcasing your capabilities, but we also understand that humans can do a lot of other things which AI can't. So we have to supplement all of our AI with a few humans on, which takes a time. And as a tech company, at times you think, oh yeah, we don't need humans, but you really need to like do these things. And I think that's a bigger nuance and a challenge that we're realizing, because when we pitch to a customer, we almost pitch it's like a 100% AI solution and it's like magic. And when it's the reality is like it's 60% there, and then the 40% is getting supplemented. The customer doesn't know, but that's been happening. And I think after the sale, that's something that you have been really balance out with the customer and make them understand, because it's not that easy when you sell it versus when you do it, when you implement it. I think the second big one is tech, right? The whole gambit of AI is continuously changing. So you never know what next comes the weekend after, and then you are stuck in like, oh, now there is a new image model that can do things which we always thought could not happen, and then you want to rush and get it into your product, and you also want to be sure that you are still serving the customers that you have. This whole balance of how to be in front of the technology while making sure your customer experience is phenomenal is something that I see as a challenge. And thirdly, like very specific challenge, which is like while selling, it's not easy. People ask you direct questions. Hey, how are you different than Optimizely? How are you different than Adobe? Why do I fire my CRO agency, whom I've been working with 20 years? What will you bring on the table? Like very, very hard questions. And I think that's the one thing that I really love. And you can just showcase like a video and tell them, hey, this is what we can do. And then you can say, hey, I don't want you to fire. Use your product as a product. Like, why don't you run 50% of the experiments with your CRO agency, run 50% with us, and see what the difference we bring in. Those kind of stuff, but it's hard, it's tough,
Right.
because some of these relationships are deep, and so when you come in and say, hey, we are going to replace this, it's just tough.
Yeah. So now you mentioned that you're an early stage startup, right? So how have you been navigating that? I know as an early stage startup, sometimes it can be hard to go and get those first few customers. So how are you really balancing this fact that you're a growing startup right now with bringing in consistent customers?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've realized over the time I've been selling this solution is that you have to embrace that you're an early stage startup, and you have to actually boast about it, because a lead stage startup or a startup brings in a lot of positive. We have much higher speed. Our velocity is much higher than anyone. We can implement stuff. We can be flexible with our models. We can be flexible with our build, because we can do custom builds for the customer. And so I think that's something that I've started doing. That's embracing being an early stage startup and being upfront about this thing. And I am realizing a lot of people and a lot of companies have budgets to use AI right now. And so that's been helping a lot more, because when you are open upfront and you can clearly define the value that you will bring, people are intrigued, so they will always give you a chance. It's tough, it's hard to get into the door, but for us, events have been working well. For us, SEO has been working well. For us, Reddit has been working well. So some of the channels that we are leaning on and making sure we keep on being there. But I think what we've been able to do well is just reaching out and figuring out the pain points when people are posting about them. Like, somebody posts Twitter, hey, I hate my CRO agency. They took $7,000 for one experiment. I am the first one to comment there. Or on a Reddit, somebody asking, hey, is CRO agency is a scam? And then you go and like talk about it. So we have been very intentional going to and solving for the pain points rather than being thought leaders right now, because that's what been working for us. I think like we will start doing a lot more thought leadership, telling the world about how we approach CRO. But for now, so far, we have been purely focused on pain points, answering those on every type of media, social media, print. If we see some CRO talking about it on TV, like we just reach out, right? Like when we tell the CMO, hey, we are here, we hear you, can help, let us know. Yeah.
Right. Now you mentioned that you guys also do custom builds.
We can do. We haven't done it for anybody yet, but we can.
Okay. What does that look like?
Yeah, so like when you sell to enterprise, you get some custom requirements. And for example, like we are talking to a bank, and the requirement there is, hey, our workflow needs approval across compliance and legal. And now this is not typical in most of our customers, but for this customer, we end up building a custom workflow solution within our platform so that they can actually connect the platform to their legal and compliance and get the approvals within that system, right? So some of those things, because we can do it and we do it, it helps, because else the marketer then would have to download everything, get it into a presentation, send it to the legal team. They will read through it, approve it, then they send back. But doing it in the dashboard helps a lot. And so it streamlines their process, so they appreciate us more. And then because we did a custom workflow, they don't want to kick us out, because the other software they will ever look at will not do a custom workflow. And so it's like both a retention strategy as well as something to talk about so that they can feel special buying with us. So I think that's how we've been approaching it.
So who do you guys normally target? Do you guys usually go for these bigger enterprise clients, or you guys still go for smaller, mid-sized businesses?
Yeah, so we don't do smaller right now. We are more mid size, like larger mid size and enterprise. That's what we are focusing on. In terms of customer type, we are focusing on the ones who has high lifetime value of their own customers. So for example, car dealerships, right? Each buy is like 30, 40, 100K, right? Or banks, where once they get a credit card customer, they squeeze them out for life. So anyone who has a consumer base whose LTV is very high is the ones we go after. So like banking, interior design, home services, education, finance. Like these are the ones that we've been able to crack and go after.
So you talked a lot about this shift in AI that's going on right now. And you mentioned how one of your problems right now is how's the right way to balance that right now?
Yeah.
How do you balance the AI and the tech with the human interaction? Can you talk to us a bit more about that? What do you think about the AI shift?
I think it's very, very important to just accept it. This is going to happen, and this is going to happen at the pace it is happening at. It's just important to understand what it can do and what it can't do, right? Like once you have a clarity of what it can't do, you know where the humans will lie.
Mhm.
In our example, we know nobody's going to trust AI 100%. So we need human in loop at the review stage. But that's the only stage when and I know I have seen one of my customer do this. They will take our Excel, put it in AI and ask is everything looks fine? And which like, we can do this. But this is a human in loop step. Just get through the entire thing. But the important part is to understand where do you want that human in the loop. What is that the human can do, but the AI can't. And I think that's where that's understanding is most important. For us, the challenge is AI just the whole ecosystem from softwares to infra layer to capabilities. AI just evolving so fast and so well for us to absorb all of it quickly for our customer has been a challenge. I think that is a lot for us than figuring out where to get AI and where to get human in, because that's still more or less clear, but just accepting the pace of development is the one that we are facing some challenge with.
So what do you mean by accepting that pace of development? How do you guys stay ahead with that?
You can't stay ahead. You have to match the speed, but when you are like 12 people team or 14 people team, you can't match that speed. So you have to let go of certain things, and you have to let go of certain customers because you cannot match that speed, right? Like a customer of ours wants a UI augmentation. Like, hey, can you change my website look and feel automatically with AI? Like, yeah, we can, but we don't have bandwidth because we have to still do text and image and video and like all those things, because they saw something Claude posted, hey, we can do this, and now they were like, can you integrate that into it? So basically the idea is like, how do you be sane with your current product roadmap and not get influenced by the AI advancement and your customer asks, and be focused and keep doing it, and that's what we are trying to balance.
So I know that you guys are growing right now. So do you have any innovations that you're making? Any new products or offerings that you're planning on coming out with in the future?
Yeah, so right now, one product that we are coming out with is the insights and the hypothesis piece that I was talking about. So the idea here is, so far we've been doing like a couple of insights, couple of hypotheses to run an experiment, but that is still like an experiment. The thing that we are coming out is generate hundreds of hypotheses and get a few approved from the marketeer, and then run the experiment continuously. What it means is you run the first experiment, get a winner, then you run a second, get a winner, and just ask the marketer, hey, what's the uplift in conversion that you're looking for? And keep running the experiment without their input or without their intervention till you hit that number. So this continuous experimentation is something we are coming out with very soon based on the numerous insights that we are generating. So this whole module is what we are launching very, very soon. We have done experiments one off, but now we want to go all crazy on it, like learn, feedback, close, learn, feedback, close, and like just keep doing it.
And that would be all within something that the AI does?
Yeah. So it's like a pure AI solutions. It's like you run an experiment, AI learns from the result, AI is already learning from your data, and then it runs another experiment. Then it runs, learns, gets the data, run another. So like that's the loop. And then it keeps on running till it realizes that this is the max I can get.
Mhm. That's really interesting. I feel like that could be a very powerful tool once it comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are hoping like another couple of weeks to get it live. And we're hoping to start with our current customers and see how much value we can add for them, and then eventually like roll it out for everybody else.
And what do you think that's going to look like?
When
How do you think that's going to add more value to it?
people, I think marketers know they had to, they know that they don't, the conclusion of the experiment is something where the experimentation should not stop. Current CRO stopped at the conclusion of the experiment. Our goal is that just saying, hey, you should be testing everything every time. And so once we tell them that you don't have to worry about what experiment to run, but rather you worry about what the outcome of the experiment is, it becomes an easier sell. Because then we can tell them, hey, you approve this 7 or 8 experiments that you want to run, and let us run it automatically so that we can give you a final outcome that this is what you should implement on your website, right? So I think anyway, we are only developing it because we have heard from marketers. We are not reinventing anything. We just hearing them, understanding, digesting, narrowing down what exactly do they mean, and then building a product, right? Like, so it's always customer in the loop for us.
So zooming out a bit, right? We've focused a lot on your business right now. Now, if we zoom out to the industry itself, what are some trends that you're currently seeing there? What recent developments are you seeing in the industry that have kind of caught your attention?
Yeah, on the MarTech side, I think the biggest one I'm seeing is CDPs. Like everybody's been talking about it, and then getting so much of first party data, and then getting an AI to sit on that first party data to figure out what
Mhm.
SMS to send, or what text to send, what email to send to people. I think that's the one that I'm seeing again and again and again. Like everybody's talking about it. But CDPs has existed for a while. There's just a new movement I'm seeing with the ability with AI to read this data much more coherently, right? The other one is you might have been following. There's like lot of AI companies coming in and saying, hey, we can create ads from your videos. We can create Google ad from your landing page, and so like ad creatives is another thing that I'm seeing a lot more now. Influencer videos is something that I'm seeing a lot more now. Like, um, why do you have to be in person in a video? Why can't your avatar do this, right? Like stuff like that. So I think those are some of the things that I'm finding interesting and seeing a lot.
What do you think the potential is for them to impact the industry?
And I think like influencer avatars will be huge, because this is one challenge when I used to run my own D2C brand before Fiber. Getting right influencer, pitching the product, having a human face or AI human face in a video has been a challenge. Like, it's not cheap. The logistics is hard because you have to send a product, then you have to bring the product back and stuff like that. There's like a lot of pain in this, and I think that market should explode a lot more, because it just gives access to a model kind of a celebrity and a model kind of people in ads, in videos, without doing or without hiring anybody.
Right. And, once again, on the flip side of that, right, what are some challenges that you're seeing in the industry?
Like the same tech can be used to fake anything. Like I have heard horror stories where people have been scammed out of it, right? Like, hey, I'm your mom calling, and like just took the money out, right? Like, so I think like the tech challenge, like knowing, like if you think of the ad industry, it's been the industry which is the most talked about, both positively and negatively. People have come up with ideas that, hey, you put native ad, you put that is a sponsored post. For the AI stuff, this has not happened yet. So knowing what's an avatar versus what is an actual human is very, very important, right? So I think that's a big that for me is like the biggest challenge, because if that's true, anyone can take anyone's product and put it on their Instagram feed or put it on their YouTube feed, and like, or fake a website or like that. So chances of fraud increases significantly. So I think that's some of the things that people have to be mindful of before like employing them at a very, very large scale.
And do you think that putting these kinds of labels that distinguish these AIs from the humans on things could go and kind of bring down the overall upside that we can get from this?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think this is like too early ecosystem to comment on. I still feel like the value of seeing an image and reading a text versus an AI speaking is higher. So I still feel it won't bring it down to the level of a static post. It'll still have like higher value. Will it have value as high as a human? Might not be. But I think as a stopgap solution, there's still a solution which will improve ROI, get more conversions, get more people to buy.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what's the most overrated piece of advice you've encountered recently?
What's overrated piece of advice? So I think one of the advice that I've recently got is I need to be a lot more on podcasts and not selling. I think that's the most overrated piece of advice I'd say. Uh, and like it's so hilarious, like I'm on a podcast talking to you, but I think that's one thing that I've heard, and I was like, what? And the point here is like, hey, you need to be out there and not doing actual sales. Maybe you hire somebody to sell, but if you'll think of traditional B2B or traditional selling, the founder being close to the sales is always the best thing. Right? And so I think that's something that's stuck on my head. Is like, oh, okay, cool.
Alrighty. Well, that was a great session. Thanks for coming on. It was awesome to get you on the show. You brought a lot of good insights, a lot of good perspective onto this. And you guys have a really interesting solution at Fibr. So that's awesome. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing.
Hey, thanks, Himnish. Thanks a lot for having me here.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. Have a great day, man.
As we end today's episode of Making MarTech, we'd like to thank all our listeners. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share this and subscribe to our show so you don't miss the next one. I'm your host, Himnish Jindal, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.